Welcome to Once Upon a Real Life with Belle. This podcast is proudly supported by our friends at ActiveFlex, the Australian family-owned and manufactured gel designed for long-lasting relief of sore muscles and joints. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, and leave a comment so you never miss an episode and can join in the conversation. TikTok and Instagram superstar Liz Rose joins me today. She's the confidence and charisma expert, specializing in body language, psychology, and neuroscience. Liz shares brilliant reels online and gives tips and tricks on how to use your own body language in life and how to read others better. Liz is someone who transformed shy into confidence and influence. She's obsessed with people watching, body language, and the little habits that make a huge difference in how we are seen by others. With over 30 years coaching leaders and clients, this helps people step into their power, build confidence, and get results. All while keeping it real and fun. Make a cuppa, sit down and get comfortable because she's got practical tips and insights for you to start using through your body language today. Welcome, Liz.
Hello, Belle. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk to you. Thank you.
I've been watching you on Instagram. I'm not cool enough for TikTok yet, but Instagram, I am obsessed with your reels. So not only do I enjoy the visual setup, so they look good, but the content, every single video, I relate to.
So nice. That's so great to hear. I love getting feedback, good and bad, because sometimes you don't know, you think you're doing the right thing, but you don't know. So it's great to hear when it resonates. Really good.
Oh, well, I've never come across a page like yours that is so helpful in the real life. Body language is so important, as you will know and tell us all about. We'll start with a little bit of your life journey. Will you tell us a little bit about little Liz? What was your journey like through life?
I will. Well, I had a really good childhood, I have to say. I had loads of cousins and really good memories of us all playing out until, it got dark. But I guess that the bit that goes with that and probably what's relevant to the content that I post, there's also the part of my childhood and the teens where I remember being quite painfully shy. So I was an only child until I was 12 and then my brother came along. So I spent a lot of my time quietly sitting on the sidelines observing other people. I spent a lot of time around other adults and then later on teenagers. And I was really fascinated by how people behaved and how others responded to them. And I guess that fascination continued all of my life. And I still find it really interesting.
Were your cousins older than you?
It was a mix. Yeah, I think I was around about the youngest, but there were a couple that were younger than me, but there were a whole lot of us.
And were they big personalities? Were you like outshined? I'm trying to get a gauge on whether it was internal or external.
Yeah, no, not so much with my cousins. I think it became more evident later on in school and definitely in high school where I would kind of sit back and then, you have your confident personalities who are always kind of putting themselves forward and they're, the captain of the team and they're this and they're that because they're just confident and people are just drawn to that. So I think when you don't have the confidence and you're quiet and you're shy, you can't expect people to gravitate towards you. It's just not kind of how human nature works. So it really became evident in high school, I think, for the most part.
Yeah. So I was probably that out there person at school, always wanting attention because at home I didn't get attention. So at school I was like, here I am.
Yeah.
So, and I always gravitated toward the shy girls and boys because I enjoyed that. Because if there's two of me, it's a bit crazy.
Ah, how fascinating. That's so interesting.
Yeah. So my best friend, she would be quite shy. Actually, quite a few of my best friends are very reserved.
Right.
Balancing it out. Was there a specific moment in your life? So we've gone through primary and high school. Was there a specific moment where you decided, I'd like to look at changing this and externally become more confident?
Yeah, definitely. I was always fascinated by how people behave towards other people and how people responded to them. And then in my 20s, I joined the corporate world and I quickly noticed something there, that how people acted, so their body language, their appearance, and even their tone of voice, it directly shaped how others saw them. And over time, I realized that certain behaviors consistently lined up with how high they ranked in the organization. So I learned that to be taken seriously and considered competent and intelligent, that my body language and my behavior needed to signal that to other people. So, I had always been aware of being shy and quiet. And while others, like I said, pushed themselves forward, I sat back and that just didn't work for me anymore in the workplace. So I began studying human behavior, body language, and the habits that shape who we become more deeply. I wanted to be confident and successful. And I learned that if I stopped using the behaviors of a shy person and instead adopted those small daily behaviors of a confident, successful person, that in time my brain would code them into my identity just as part of who I am. And that's exactly what happened.
So you don't have to name them, but was there someone in that workplace you were trying to emulate, or was it a mix of people in the leader position?
I think it was just generally across the senior leaders in the
Yeah.
organizations, and I've worked in quite a few, so it's not one in particular, but it's quite evident across all the places that I've worked that the senior leaders, they behave in a certain way. There's a quiet stillness, there's a quiet confidence that they carry. It's their body language, it's the way that they sit with their hands at a table. It's all of those things that convey confidence to other people. So yeah, all of those things became evident to me. And it's not about faking it, but it's just about thinking about how you want other people to view you.
Being
So,
mindful.
yeah,
Being mindful of what you're doing with your body.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And so you were working in this space, and then did you go to university with that special niche in mind?
No, I didn't. No. So I've done a master's in human resource management and a graduate certificate in psychology. So I'll say first that I'm not a
So
psychologist.
you've pre-done that. That had already been
Yeah,
done.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I did that. Yes, I did that. But so I'm not a psychologist, but what I am good at is taking kind of complex scientific studies and making them simple and actionable for people. So I share those with others through, coaching and social media. So yeah.
So good. Let's talk about body language then. How much confidence would you think is communicated through body language versus what someone actually says?
Okay. Well, research shows that the majority of what we communicate isn't through words at all. It's actually through our body language and it's through our tone and our energy. So roughly 70 to 90% of confidence, that's expressed non-verbally. So the way that you stand, make eye contact, use your hands, even how you pause, all of that tells people how certain you feel before you even open your mouth. So words do matter, but body language is what makes people believe them.
That's a huge number.
Yeah.
70%.
It's a lot. Yeah.
So I can be saying something, but my body's saying, I don't even believe what I'm saying.
Yes, it's not congruent. So what you're saying and your body language is not matching up and people can see through that. So whether they realize it or not, it's built into us. So
Yes. Okay. So, and I've got to know this. What is the power response?
okay, good one. I love this.
I purposely didn't look it up. I just want to know from you, what is it?
Well, it's something that I love using and I love teaching. And I coined that term because I was posting about how to respond to certain situations or behaviors from others. So I guess an example of this would be if someone insults you in front of other people and then they hide behind that, I'm just joking. Well, we get that. We've all heard that, right? So there are three main things that I suggest that people can do in a situation like that. And it's the use of body language, tone, and words. So first, the body language. I suggest be still and calm. So no eye rolling, no nervous laughing, because that signals the moment just got serious. When you become still and calm, we're like, hang on a minute. So 2 is your tone. So you want to keep it low and you want to pause because that pause, that forces them to sit in the tension that they've just created. And third, your words. So you want to keep them minimal and firm. Something like, I'm surprised that you'd say that out loud. And then pause. Your silence will drive that point home and it makes you look calm while they probably look a little silly by this point.
You've just handballed it back to them to respond to their
Absolutely.
own rudeness.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
This is so common. People will say something and they'll say, I'm just joking.
Yeah,
And it's like, why did you even say that?
that's right. Yeah. Yeah. People do hide behind their I'm just joking.
Yeah. So I find in those moments, I feel like I get like really this feeling of heat in my head. And
Yes.
I think, yeah, so you're saying just be calm,
Be calm.
take a
Be
second,
still.
breathe, and then say powerfully.
That's
I'm
right.
surprised you would say that out loud.
That's right. Or something along those lines. It doesn't have to be those words, but something just short, firm, and calm. And the pause is really important because what the pause does, it creates, awkwardness and it lets them sit in the awkwardness that they've just created. So
Wow.
Very
Wow.
powerful. Yeah.
And so I know you've done a lot of client transformations. What is your favorite?
Mm.
Someone who's come to you and said, "This is my issue," and then you've worked with them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I've been working with one of my favorite clients for a few months, and we actually last week we recently wrapped up our last session. And for a while, he may come back. He'll see how he's tracking. But when he first came to me, he just wanted confidence and help with understanding people. So he really felt quite unheard. So when he spoke, he struggled to connect in social settings. All of that sort of stuff. It's just awkward. So fast forward a few months, and he's like a completely different person. He's now taking a leading role. He's confidently educating kids and engaging with their parents. He's making new friends out in public, and he's just carrying himself with this genuine ease and presence that he struggled with before. But what I love most is that his transformation came from consistent small steps. So he took every suggestion and he applied the daily practices and he did the inner work. And just watching him grow into this version of himself has been really incredible. Yeah, really happy.
Life-changing for him,
Yeah, it
that
is.
sounds. And would that be role play with you while you're in a session and then he goes home and in a mirror has a conversation with somebody? How does it look
Yeah,
for
it
him?
could be something like that. It could be him, spending some time journaling on some deeper stuff that perhaps has come up in childhood. So for him in particular, he was always told to be quiet. His voice was never heard. He kind of came from that childhood. And so he never developed the confidence to speak. He never felt that what he had to say was worthwhile. So, it could be a little bit about journaling back into that deeper stuff. It could be just a couple of suggestions like, okay, for the next few days until we meet again, I want you to, when you're out and about just doing your chores, you might be going to the post office, say hello to two or three people, make eye contact, and just have a gentle smile on your face. Just try that. So, just very small things, big, no major steps that people have to take to make this dramatic transformation. It's just practicing these little habits. So if you struggle with eye contact, just practice maybe using this triangle method where you look from the left eye to the right eye to the bridge of the nose and back up again, just to help you maintain that eye contact for just a couple of seconds longer than you would normally be comfortable with. So just little things like that people can take away, practice, and then they get better at it.
I
Yeah.
love that. So the awkward stare with somebody. So you're saying look at one of the eyes, rotate to the other,
Yeah.
the nose, and then back again.
Yes.
Okay. Because sometimes when it feels like it's a stare.
It does. It does. So sometimes people make too much eye contact and that can make the other
Yeah.
person feel awkward. And sometimes, which is probably a little more common, people find it hard to maintain eye contact. And when you find it hard to maintain eye contact, that can be perceived as that you've got something to hide or that you're just generally awkward. So that little
Or
triangle
not interested.
we're not interested. Absolutely. Yeah. And so that little triangle method, that's a method that I like to use. And I even use it myself because I have always found it a little bit difficult to maintain eye contact. And I'm not quite sure where that comes from. But using that method just helps you to kind of maintain that eye contact just a little longer than you would normally be comfortable with. So it can
Yeah.
help you in that respect.
So those that are shy when they're walking along the street and don't want to make eye contact with people, but they want to practice what you're just speaking to,
Yeah.
I get in first and I say, "Hi, how are you?" and then keep going. So it becomes comfortable. If I'm
Right.
walking my dog or I'm walking on the street and
Yeah.
someone's coming toward me, I'm most often the first to say, "Good morning."
Yeah.
And I think that is just breaking the ice. You don't need to speak to that person, but it gives them a boost as well.
It does. And it gives them
Otherwise,
the
you're just
open to
silently
say,
walking past each other.
yeah, that's lovely. I love that. And because not everybody is like that. And a lot of us have this internal dialogue that, oh, people aren't interested in saying hello to me or people wouldn't want to speak to me. So there's a lot of this internal dialogue that people have. So when somebody like you comes along and breaks the ice with a smile, people instantly go, this person is safe and they're open and they're welcoming and I can smile and say hi and have maybe a small conversation. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
lovely because it shows that you're a safe person to do that with.
And the other thing that you said that really resonates with me is the facial expression that you have. So, I mean, I've got a learned facial expression. I've done it. I have a background in sales, so I had to look approachable, right? I had
Yeah.
to look like somebody would want to come and speak to me. And I think I've just kept that face my whole life. So um, I have what we call resting nice face. So people will feel comfortable speaking to me and
Yeah.
engaging with me. And I think for listeners that feel like they've got the other one, the resting bee face,
Yeah.
perhaps practice
Yes. Yeah.
having that, not a smile, but like a little lips up to the sides, like
Yeah.
when you're in a cafe or when you're in a coffee shop line or, if you're at the groceries. How many times do I have chats with people at the groceries and I didn't engage them? So it must be the corners of my lips turning up.
Yeah, right. Yeah, see, just those little things make a difference. It's nothing extreme that people need to do, but it's just having, just being aware. Because if you do have a resting bee face, then maybe, you can just practice having a little turned up corner at the mouth and something like that. So your face looks more warm, welcoming, and approachable.
Approachable. That's the one. This episode is brought to you by our friends at Activeflex, the Australian-made pain relief gel that helps soothe sore muscles and aching joints. For long-lasting relief, look for Activeflex at Chemist Warehouse or search Activeflex Gel online. Always read the label and follow the directions for use. If your pain persists, chat with your healthcare professional. Go through a few, just for the listeners, a few daily behavior changes that you would recommend if they want to level up their confidence.
Yeah. Okay. I think, yeah. So the first thing I would say is that confidence isn't built in one big leap. So like you say, it's built in tiny daily behaviors. And that's how you rewire how you see yourself by doing those small daily behaviors. So I'll give you a few small things to start with. So the first thing that you might want to do is just change your posture before you change your mood. So stand taller, open your chest, relax your shoulders, because what that does, your body sends constant feedback to your brain. And when you stand like a confident person, you actually start to feel like one. So the second thing I would suggest is hold eye contact for just 1 second extra. So like I talked to you about before, you can use a triangle technique. It's a small thing, but it just sends signals of self-assurance and it tells people that you're present and you're grounded. Like you said, it shows them that you're paying attention and that you're interested in what they've got to say.
And you're not in a hurry.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, the triangle technique is very helpful for people like me who find it a little harder to make eye contact. The third thing I would say is to slow down your speech. So confident people, they don't rush to be heard. They speak with pauses, and that instantly changes how other people respond to you. And then one of my favorites is take up space when you walk. So shoulders back, unhurried, grounded in your stride, and your body just learns safety through movement. So yeah, I would say none of these seem huge on their own, but practice daily. They do change the way that your brain and your body communicate, and that's how confidence starts to become your default state.
They are all brilliant. They are all brilliant. And it's a learned practice for me to speak slowly. So
Yeah.
how I'm speaking to you now is not comfortable, but this is the
Ah,
way that I'm speaking to you.
yes.
I would like to race through my sentences, but I am learned, very learned, and my daughters are very similar. They will, and I say, slow down, slow down. So that's a practice
Yes. Yeah.
for me.
There's definitely certain things. It's a lifelong practice for me. Like I said, the eye contact thing for me.
So look in my eyes, Liz. Look in my in your own life, do you, now that you are so well versed in body language, do you get imposter syndrome? And if you do, so a moment where you might feel your confidence slip,
Yeah.
how
Look,
do you reset?
yeah, absolutely. I think everyone experiences imposter syndrome at times, even people who teach confidence for a living. Like the difference is I've learned to recognize it as a signal and not a truth. So in situations when I feel my confidence is slipping, I don't try and fake it or push it away, but I get curious. I check in with my body first because that's usually where the shift starts for me. Am I tense? Am I breathing shallow? Am I shrinking my posture? And then I reset myself physically. So I slow my breath, I drop my shoulders, and I ground my feet. And that instantly brings me back to presence. It makes a huge difference. And then I remind myself that confidence isn't a permanent state. It's something that you practice. Some days you'll feel magnetic and then other days you won't. And that's okay. But what matters is that you don't let self-doubt make the decisions for you. You act anyway. And then your confidence catches up, if that makes sense.
That makes so much sense. So hormones will come into it too for women. But,
Yeah.
some days we just feel down. And that's sometimes for me when the imposter syndrome will just sneak on in there. And then
Yeah.
other days you think, oh, this is amazing. I'm amazing.
Yes,
And
exactly.
I think that's a great one, self
Yeah.
grounding. So just think about what's your posture? Am I breathing naturally or am I shallow breathing? And then just ground yourself and reset. In the moment, I find being in the moment difficult. That will
Okay.
be something that I will work on. It's not when I'm in with somebody, it's usually when I'm on my own.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, no, probably it could be a little bit of both for me. I think for me, it can be, maybe before a big presentation or before I do a big talk. It could be something like that. And sometimes it doesn't show up at all. And it's not necessarily because I'm talking in front of a large number of people. Sometimes doing that, I don't have any fear at all. It could be a little presentation that I have to give in front of 3 people. So it pops up at different
It's
times.
sneaky.
It's sneaky.
It's sneaky.
It's very sneaky. But
Yeah.
yeah, look, the biggest thing for me is my physicality. So if I'm feeling that, I just change my physicality, I expand myself a little, and just that expansion of your body signals to your
Mm.
brain, you're safe, you're comfortable, you belong here, it's okay. It's that kind of safety that your brain, is warning you against. Your brain always wants you to be safe. So if you can kind of just trigger to your brain that you're safe, generally that confidence will kind of come back and you can breathe and move through the moment.
That. I love that. So what are some common mistakes people make with body language?
Okay, I think one of the most common body language mistakes is overcorrecting. So they try too hard to look confident. So people, they might puff up their chest, they might overuse eye contact, or they'll stand too rigidly, and that can come across as tense or performative rather than genuine. And then inversely, another big one is shrinking without realizing it. So crossing their arms, tucking in, hands in pockets, speaking too quickly, like we said, or just physically making themselves smaller. And these are unconscious habits that signal insecurity. Even when the person's words are strong, the body language will counteract that.
Telling a
So
whole other story.
yeah. And then there's a mismatch. So when someone's words say one thing, and I think you touched on that a little earlier, their words say one thing, but their tone or the facial expression says something else, people can pick up on that instantly. So the goal isn't to be perfect in your body language, but it's just to make it congruent so that your body, your tone, and your message are all saying the same thing. And that's what people will trust.
Authenticity.
Yeah,
It's real.
absolutely.
It's
Yeah,
real. Yeah,
it's
I
real.
love that one too.
Right.
So what's your favorite body language move that you will use to personally influence situations to get the outcomes that you want, Liz?
Okay. My favorite body language move is stillness. So I think most people rush to feel the silence or they fidget when they're nervous. But when you stay calm and still, it just completely shifts the energy. It shows composure and control, and it shows a lot of confidence. I think stillness makes people lean in, and it can say that I'm grounded, I'm not threatened, and I'm in charge of this moment. Or in a social situation, that calm magnetic presence can really make you stand out. So for me, it's stillness.
Wow. So I've got the old ADHD, so I'm always fidgeting and always moving. So for me to keep still, it is 100% concentration.
Yeah, I get that. Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I was very active as a child, and I was constantly bouncing my knee. So under a table, people would go, "Why is the table vibrating like that?" And I wouldn't even realize that I'm doing it, but
Yeah.
underneath my knees bouncing, and it was probably nervous energy or whatever. But I'm a little bit the same.
Even if I'm watching television and I think that I'm really relaxed and I'm just chilling out, my knee or my leg is still doing the same thing.
Yeah,
It's
interesting,
still
isn't it?
going. It's still going. So what about, do you have a specific story where your body language got you the result that you were looking for?
Yes.
What about in the workplace? Let's throw it back to the workplace.
Yes, actually, I do have one that. So the one that stands out was actually during a business meeting a while back, and the person that I was speaking to was quite dominant, fast talker, big gestures, trying to take control of the room. And in the past, when I was younger, I might have matched that energy, but instead I did the opposite. So I stayed completely composed. I slowed my movements down. I was very steady in my tone, calm eye contact. And what happened next was very fascinating. Within a few minutes, he started mirroring me. So his tone softened a little, his gestures slowed down, and that whole conversation shifted from more of a competitive, combative space to a bit more of a collaborative space. So That's the power of body language. You can lead without even saying a word. When you regulate your energy, people will subconsciously adjust to match that. So it's pretty powerful.
That's brilliant. And mirroring is so important as well in
Yeah.
everyday life, but also in the business world. Like I learned that when I was working in sales, we did some training courses and it was all about body language, and you mirror the customer, and then
Yes.
you're open to a good conversation that's authentic. If
Yeah.
I'm standing there and I've got my arms crossed, or I'm, like this with my head on my knuckles,
Yes.
bored, that's giving off, I don't want to be here. I'm
That's
bored. I don't want to be in this conversation. Whereas if you are engaged, you're mirroring them. So if they cross their arms, you can cross your arms.
yes.
If they're leaning against the bench, you can lean against the bench. But if they're standing straight and then you're leaning against the bench, that's giving off vibes of, well, definitely not sales vibes. I'm
Yeah.
probably not going to
Yeah.
buy from that person.
Yeah, absolutely. I talk a lot about mirroring, and mirroring is one way that we can make people feel as though we are like them, and we like people who are like us. So when you subtly mirror, and I do warn against mirroring too obviously, because it can come across as quite contrived and have the opposite effect if people kind of catch on to the fact that you're mirroring their body language. But if you do it subtly, like you say, if somebody's kind of leaning and relaxed in their posture, and then you do the same, it signals to them that you are like them, and they in turn will like you because of that. Like I said, we like people who are like us, and that's just human nature.
And it has to be natural.
It has to
It
be
can't be
natural.
contrived and it can't be obvious. So if they scratch their nose, you can't just go and scratch your nose on
Yeah,
purpose.
that's right. Yeah, I think, like the crossing of the legs, or the leaning, or the leaning on the chin, you can, things like that you can do, but as long as it's not
Do
too
you know,
obvious.
I think the very first reel I ever saw of you on Instagram, and this I sent to so many people, the scratching of the nose, like I've got an itchy nose in a conversation. Do you remember that? It was a while ago.
Oh,
And it
I've done a
was,
couple around the nose, so it could have been a couple of different
well,
scenarios.
well, for me, if something's irritating me,
Oh,
someone, I
yes,
instantly get an itchy nose. Like it's just like,
yes.
and your reel was something to do with this. And I went, 100% that's
Yeah.
me. Send,
Yeah.
send, send.
The nose can signal a lot of things. We have like a lot of nerve endings there. And so it can, when we're getting triggered like that, we can get irritated in the nose. And the other thing that I think I did a post on the nose a while ago, and that's, I think, one that's pinned to the top of my reels actually, because it was a very popular one. And it's about, doing this movement when you are dismissing somebody, or you don't want to hear what they've got to say. So there are a lot of different things
Ooh.
around the nose. It's so fascinating. It's just, I find it really interesting.
So if someone listening like you in that leadership role that you were looking for, and they want to walk into a negotiation, a job interview, or a tough conversation at home,
Yeah.
what's one body language shift that can instantly put them in a stronger position?
I would say, if you only remember one thing, control your posture and your breath before you speak. So before you walk into that room or that conversation, take a slow breath, plant your feet firmly, and roll your shoulders back. That single reset tells your nervous system that I'm safe, and that changes everything. Your voice will then steady, your expression will soften, and your presence, will expand. So most people rush in, they're tense, they're shallow breathing, and that makes them sound defensive or uncertain. But when your body's calm and grounded, you'll naturally take the higher status position, and you'll do that without saying a word. So confidence doesn't start with words, it starts with your physiology, your body.
What about What about standing versus sitting? So if the person that you want to speak to is sitting, are you better to stand in a power position, or are you better to mirror them if you
Well,
want
I think it
control?
depends. If you want to be dominating, I think certainly standing while somebody's sitting can be more of a dominant posture, absolutely. But I think most people would be trying to have a conversation that's productive and that has a
Very.
good result for both parties. If you're kind of looking for that kind of outcome, I think matching them. So if they're sitting, you would probably want to be sitting with them as well. I had a situation many years ago where I had a team member who was very difficult to communicate with. Every conversation seemed to be very combative and would end with, storming out of the room and all of that sort of behavior. And so what I did is I stopped, when I was meeting with her, I stopped actually sitting across my desk. So typically she would sit on one side of my desk and I would sit on the other side of my desk, and we would be having a conversation, which never ended well. And so I decided to change my approach to that. And instead, I would have a walking or sitting meeting with her outside, and we would find a picnic bench outside somewhere, and we would sit side by side from each other. And just changing that position from sitting across from each other can be sort of seen as a bit of a challenging kind of position, or a bit of authoritarian position, I guess, if I'm sitting in my office behind my desk and she's sitting on the other side of it. So I changed that, and we sat side by side, we took a coffee and we just chatted. And boy, oh boy, did that change everything. So just little things like that, you can make little adjustments. So, if you want to cooperate and not have a combative type of interaction with somebody, sitting when they sit is probably a better outcome.
Oh, and also maybe, like you say, getting out of that environment. So
Yeah.
removing. So if it is an issue at home and you wanted to speak to your partner about something,
Yeah,
maybe it's best to go for a walk.
absolutely. Yeah,
Maybe it's best to sit at a park bench so you're not in that home environment
that's right.
where the issue actually lies. Great
Yeah,
idea.
exactly.
Yeah. So actually, some of our best conversations have been on walks. My
Yes,
husband and
I
I.
find that
Yeah.
too. I find that
Yeah.
too. Yeah, you sort of rambling on your walk, and the conversation rambles more freely as well, I feel.
And then doing that with a colleague, wow,
Yeah.
you are a fantastic boss or colleague, whatever that
Well, it wasn't
relationship
definitely
was.
wasn't working for us both, so something had to give. I had to change something up, so and that did the trick.
Imagine storming out on you. You would be gorgeous to work for. Cannot
Well,
imagine
you
it.
you do come across all different types of people and personalities, and you know what? The thing that I've learned is that people have very different perceptions of things. So, you would know yourself, you can look at the same situation as somebody else and see something totally different, or hear something totally different, or take something totally different away from that situation. So what was true for me was not true for her. She didn't see things the same way as me. So, and sometimes we're just different, and that's that. You're not always going to see the same thing as other people. So
No,
you just
and
kind of got to
stepping
work with that.
outside of yeah, and stepping outside of yourself and putting yourself in their position as well.
That's right.
That's something that I do a lot too. And I also encourage my friends, if I'm giving some bell counseling to a friend who's
Yeah,
going through a situation, I always have them think the other side of the story, put
that's great.
yourself in that position and
Yes.
don't act straight away. Come and talk to
Yeah.
me.
That's great. That's great. I do have somebody like that too, that I can do that with as well. So that's, yeah, it's really important to kind of pause for a moment. You don't need to take action or respond immediately. You can take a moment.
Can't control other people. We can only control ourselves. So if you, like you
Absolutely.
say, take that moment,
Yes.
you won't hopefully have the regrets of impulse decisions or impulse behaviors.
Yeah. That's exactly right. We can take a moment. It's okay.
This podcast is supported by our friends at ActiveFlex, the Australian pain relieving gel designed for long lasting relief for painful muscles and joints. Always read the label and follow the directions for use. If your symptoms persist, please seek advice from a healthcare professional. You can shop online at Chemist Warehouse or simply search ActiveFlex Gel. Can you spot people doing body language in a manipulative way? Do you do
Uh,
that when
I
you're out and
can.
about? Are you
I don't
eyeballing people?
Oh, no, I don't. I try not to, because and these are a lot of the comments that I get on my posts, that they would hate to be friends with me because I would be analyzing everything, and I don't do that. I don't do that to my friends and family and
Yeah.
people that I don't do that, but I
Well, you're an
can.
educator. You teach people how to do it.
That's right. Yeah. It's not something that I make myself consciously aware of in every situation in my life, but when I need to, I can. But particularly for myself, to manage my own body language and behavior, that's when I use it most. But yes, to answer your question, I can spot when somebody is using body language in more of a manipulative way. And it does happen more than people realize. And I've got an example that comes to mind. And it was during a meeting when someone was trying a little too hard, in my opinion, to appear open and trustworthy. There was lots of exaggerated nodding and constant smiling and overly mirrored gestures like we talked about before.
Yeah, yeah.
On the surface, it looked friendly, but it just felt a little off. And for me, the key giveaway was the timing. So their body language didn't match the natural rhythm of the conversation. The smiles, were a little too late. They came a second too late and a little forced. The eye contact just lingered a touch too long, and it was just rehearsed rather than real. The thing is that true confidence and authenticity, they've got to flow, and manipulative behavior usually feels calculated. And, once you start reading those micro delays and the energy mismatches, you can really sense when someone's using body language as a tactic rather than a truth. And we can feel it innately. We've all got this built into our DNA. Long before we evolved to have language, we kept ourselves safe and, aligned with our through body language. So it's in us innately. We can do it. And we're aware of other people's body language, whether we realize it or not. We are getting constant information and messages from people without them even speaking. Yeah.
Yeah, well, communication. Yeah, like you say, before language, there was
Yes.
communication, like between tribes and
Yes.
between, there was ways to, and even now, like I remember I was in Italy years ago and my nail polish was all funky. And
Yeah.
I went into the pharmacy and obviously I don't speak Italian. So I'm
Yeah.
trying to explain nail polish remover. So I was doing actions for what you would do to take nail
Yeah.
polish off. And the girl behind the counter and I were laughing so much, but eventually she figured it out. So it was body language and
Yes.
communication without understanding.
That's right. Yeah, you can communicate quite a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. What about your partner's body language? So a lot of people I know, and my husband too, will be on the mobile phone while I'm talking. Is that a body language that should be taken offense to, or is that them being comfortable in your presence and not feeling like they need to give you that anymore as a partner?
I think you're spot on. I think they're comfortable in your presence because if you think about that situation, if they were sitting there with their boss perhaps, or maybe with somebody else, would they be doing that? Probably not. Or maybe somebody that they just met, more than likely not. So I think there certainly is an element there of comfort. But yeah, it's a signal to you that they're not engaged with you.
They're not
listening
engaged.
to you. They're not valuing what you're saying, perhaps. So yeah, it's definitely giving you a signal. It's definitely giving
Yeah.
you a signal that they're not engaged with you or with what you're saying. So, but I think it is definitely a comfort thing.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that partners do that, like my own, we need to work out how we can get them engaged again.
Well, I'll tell you what I do, Val.
Because I think I'm funny, Liz. I think I'm hilarious, and I think I'm so engaging. But he's been with me for 25 years, and he's probably like, "I've heard it all. I know it all."
Well, it could be just that, sometimes people just need to tune out. And sometimes the way that they do that is they need a little bit of downtime and they do that through scrolling. It could be that. It might
Well,
not
it's
be
usually
that.
when he's just come home from work, whereas I'm like,
Yes.
"Tell me how your day was." He's like,
That's
"I
right.
need quiet."
I've been talking to people all day long. I don't want to talk to you right now. That's
Yeah.
usually what it is. But look, my partner does that too. And so there's a couple of things that I usually do. One is I think he needs a moment. He just needs some downtime. Like you said, he's literally just come home from work. He just needs 5 minutes to decompress or whatever. That's fine. But we actually do have a rule that when he comes home from work, we do have a cup of tea together or a cup of coffee together or whatever. And we'll just sit and chat for a few minutes. It only needs to be a couple of minutes just to connect, and then we can move on and do whatever we've got to do, and he can scroll or do what, check emails, do whatever he didn't get a chance to do during the day. But when we're sitting there together socially, if we're sitting together, say we're sitting on the back deck, we're having a glass of wine or a cup of coffee or something together, and we're just chatting, and he picks up his phone and he starts scrolling, I'll kind of give it a few minutes. But if he kind of continues doing that, I'll just excuse myself and I'll go off and do something else. Because one thing I won't do is force myself to continue to speak when someone's not listening. That's just something that I heard Jordan Peterson say a very long time ago. When someone's not listening to you, stop speaking. So that's something that I do take quite seriously for myself. And that's in the workplace, at home, with my partner, whatever. If someone's not listening to me, I stop speaking. I just remove myself and go off and do whatever I want to do.
That is great advice.
That's how I handle that.
And I guess that's why we have girlfriends too.
Yeah, exactly. They don't always want to hear about the things that we want to talk about. And I don't always want to hear about the things that they have to talk about either.
So, Liz, I think you've given some amazing tips and tricks on body language today, and you've really solidified for me some things that I'm going to focus on. I'm going to focus on standing tall. I'm going to continue focusing on slowing my speech down. And eye contact is not an issue for me. Speaking to strangers is not an issue for me. But if it is for you, listener, practice as you're walking past someone or at the grocery store or at the cashier desk. How was your day? And then the conversation, I guarantee, will flow, and you can just practice speaking with people, even if it feels unnatural, perhaps not for them. So that is a way to bring authenticity into meeting new people or in the workplace.
Yeah,
Mm,
absolutely.
you're amazing. Yeah. I'm going to ask you my very last question that I ask all guests. It's never on topic of the conversation we just had. But this is a question I have asked all of my guests. Liz Rose, have you ever seen a UFO or a ghost?
I haven't. I have to say I haven't. Because I feel like, not that I don't believe that they don't exist. I think it's because I'm not open to that. I'm very scared of ghosts and the supernatural, to be honest. So I'm really not open to that. And I feel that I probably haven't experienced um, anything like a ghost because I'm probably not open to that. I'm a little bit terrified, to be honest with you.
So I've never seen a ghost or a UFO, but I'm so fascinated by people that have.
Yes.
I'm like you. I'm not open probably to seeing
Yeah.
a ghost. It would just
Yeah.
freak me out.
Yes.
UFOs, I'm always, if I'm outside and, it's nighttime, I'm always looking. But I've
Yeah.
never, ever seen. But it's so interesting to hear my guests from all walks of life who
Yeah.
have had engagements with ghosts or UFOs.
Yeah. I hear it's quite common.
Yeah.
Someone that I'm very close to and trust implicitly told me a story about a
Which
UFO
one?
encounter, and I completely believe them, even though I haven't experienced it myself.
In
So,
Australia?
yeah, they're out in the outback. They were doing some traveling out there, and there was absolutely nothing around, no lights, and yeah, they did encounter some unusual stuff in the sky. So, yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah,
I would probably say I've had you are my 38th guest, and I would say probably only 8 or 9 have seen UFOs, but the ghosts, it would be in the 20s, mid 20s.
really, wow,
Yeah.
that's interesting. Far out. I don't want to see a ghost. I'm sorry. I don't even want to see my, my beloved grandma. I don't want to see that. It would
No.
freak me out, especially if I was by myself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All 3 of my children have had encounters, which is one of the reasons I ask my guests because
Yeah, wow.
I
Of
believe them because they
course.
all said it individually to me in our
Yeah.
previous house. Yeah.
Wow. And was it the
Yeah.
same sort of thing, or was it all different,
Yes.
but it
Yes.
was
So
in the
one
same
of
house?
them, the middle child, and she's like me, she's a chatterbox. So
Yeah.
sometimes I tune out. And I remember one time she was telling me this big long story about what she was hearing in her bedroom, and I tuned out. I caught a little bit of it, but it was about a ghost. And
Right.
then my eldest daughter, who was 17 at the time, she told me she had the same feeling separately
Oh,
about
wow.
2 months later. And I said, "Can you say that again?" And she did. And then she said, "Don't you ever hear your name on the wind?" I
Oh,
said, I said, "What?" And she said, "Your name on the wind. Do you never hear someone going, Belinda?"
oh
I said,
my goodness.
"No, I've never heard that." She said, "I hear my
Ah.
name all the time." And then my 5-year-old son separately called me and said, "Stop calling my name, Mum."
Oh
I
my
said, "I
goodness.
wasn't." And he said, "All I hear is you saying, Marshall." So
My
all 3 of
goodness.
them. We don't
Wow.
live in that
I've
home
got
anymore.
goosebumps on
I
goosebumps just
know.
listening to
I
that.
know.
That really freaks me
Yeah.
out. And so you're
Yeah.
not in that house anymore?
No, and that was a new build. We built that home. So
Gosh,
it
wow.
wasn't like it was a really old. This is a old home that I'm in right now. This home
Right.
is like 90 years old.
Wow.
The kids have never said anything about this home, but that was only a 10-year-old home. So I did have a tea leaf reading and a psychic lady come in and she said that she thinks it's indigenous spirits.
Wow.
Yeah.
From the
But
language.
my
Wow.
girlfriend came over and we lit some sage. We just had to like Google how do you clear spirits because we didn't
Yeah.
know. And we lit some sage and we opened all the windows in the home
Yeah.
Granted, it was a windy day,
Yeah.
but all the windows and doors were slamming.
Oh
Yeah.
my
And she
goodness.
said to me, "Is your house normally this loud?" I said, "It's definitely not, but the windows are never all open." So, but I'm just
Yes.
telling you, we tried to
Yeah.
clear and cleanse it.
Yeah, right. Wow, how
Mm,
interesting. That's
yeah.
fascinating. I would have really been freaked out by that. So
Thank you so much, Liz. You are
Oh,
so enjoyable to watch. So I encourage all listeners, if you're cool and on TikTok, or if you're
mhm.
like me and on Instagram, Liz Rose Official, she posts the most relatable videos about body language. So use what she said today, learn from that, have a practice, but then also follow her because it'll help you in confidence. It'll help you in your life, and it may even help you in your relationships. Thank you, Liz.
Thank you so much, Belle. Thank you for asking me. I've loved the conversation with you. And I love the name of your show, by the way. It's such a great title. I love it. So, yeah, thank you and happy to, have a chat with you anytime.
Thank you, Liz. Thanks for listening to Once Upon a Real Life with Belle. This episode was brought to you by Active Flex. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, and leave a comment. And if you loved this episode, go back and check out our previous conversations. There are so many stories you won't want to miss. Thanks again for listening.